control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all connected but separated, misunderstood and so frustrated. A million armies of one have invaded, watching you and watching me. We live behind glass curtains and act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. We wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. The little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. We the people have taken over. We the people are little brother, standing by to dethrone each other, watching you and watching me. Paranoid, the lens is our weapon, desensitized in our lust for attention, democratized by our voyeur obsessions, watching you and watching me. Slaves to perfection, don't let them project you as you are. Reveal your every flaw. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Stay in line, don't make a mistake. We're watching. We watched you for so long. We wait for you to fall. We will expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching
Let your experience begin right now. From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio. You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on Twitter, @SpacedOutRadio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can follow us on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Superman, that we're the only ones who can be strong, but we break on command, 'cause women rule the world.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride as we are live on Spaced Out Radio.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Said the deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight as we kick off a brand new month. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for listening in at spacedoutradio.com and on Spreaker. As once again we come in from the frozen Canadian tundra, battle our way past the wild animals, sidestep Bigfoot, and enter Uncle Jimbo's cabin, stoke the fire, heat this place up, and broadcast you live on this Monday night, early Tuesday morning if you're on the East Coast. Here at Spaced Out Radio, we do this every single night of the week. Why? We want to be your official one-stop shop when it comes to the supernatural, ufological, extraterrestrial, conspiratorial, and so much more. Like our music? If you head to the new look Spaced Out Radio website, you'll hear the guitar god himself, Ron "BUMBLEFOOT" THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses. Check out a couple of his music videos by clicking on the Bumblefoot banner. You can also check us out on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, you can follow me at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show, and of course our website is spacedoutradio.com. At this time, we say hello to everyone listening in on the High Plains Talk Radio Network, in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker, along with our fans at Facebook at Euphoria Chronicles, Chronicles of the Unknown, Forest Moon Paranormal, and our flagship chat room, the SOR Space Travelers. Hey Space Travelers, you can now head to our website and sign up for the SOR Space Travelers Club. It's only $5 a month, and with that, you get your name automatically entered into monthly prize draws like Joe Allgaier won just the other day. You can have access to private group interviews, access to a special section on our website for you, and so much more. Hey, we're going to give you a hell of a lot more than just access to our archives. While you're on our website, you can see who we affiliate with, and you can read up on our recent blogs, my latest one posted today, as well as other ones posted brand new by clicking on the blog tab, and you can check out the SOR Space Wire by our news editor, Eric Markham. Tonight's show is brought to you by Rivulet Reiki and Readings, providing healings in person or to distance. PurplePlates.com, helping heal your body, mind, and soul. The New Agora newspaper is the official newspaper of this show, and the iTunes app Spirit Story Box. It's the official ghost hunting app of Spaced Out Radio. Imagine your child or teenager coming up to you and as their parent or guardian telling you they have had alien contact. What would you do? Would you believe them? Would you tell them the standard, "It's only a dream, honey"? Be honest with yourself. What would you do? Would you take them to a doctor? Or would you sit and listen to their story, as scary as it may be? That's the case with our young guest tonight. Zion Zeta, the name they gave to her, is only 23 years old, pretty young. She's been having ET contact with Zeta Greys and a group of reptilians since she was in her mid-teens. Growing up in Puerto Rico and Florida, Zion started having sightings of beings after her parents saw a UFO. While they were outside viewing this odd flying aircraft, she was in bed when a strange figure stared through her window, and that was on the 3rd story of their building. And the story begun. Now, at 23, it's easy to dismiss this young lady as someone who really isn't old enough to have such experiences. Let's face it, the younger they are, the less us older people truly listen. But her message is one of caution, trust, and dignity. She respects herself to know what she's been through, and she expects the contact to continue throughout the rest of her life. Her website is zionzeta.com. Zion, welcome to Spaced Out Radio. How are you tonight?
Thank you so much, Dave, for having me tonight on your show. It's an honor to be here. I am doing very well, and I hope that you are also doing well tonight.
I am, thank you very much. And you reached out to us a couple of months ago and basically said, hey, if I meet your standards, would you consider putting me on the air? And I said, absolutely. You're probably the youngest contactee we have had on this show, and I commend you for that. Is this something, Zion, that growing up as a young lady in Puerto Rico and in Florida, because you kind of jumped between the two territories, was it something that you believed in your entire life, or did this just hit you out of the blue as a teenager?
Well, as a child, my family, I was raised as a Catholic, but we were a very open-minded Catholic family. And so as a young child, they introduced me to extraterrestrial life when I was around 5 years old. And this happened one night when we went to a fair, a local fair, and I saw this inflatable alien. And when I asked my aunt, what is that? And that's when she told me that it was a Martian, that we had cosmic neighbors, but that they were afraid of scaring us, so that's why they never really showed up on Earth. And since then, I've been, on and off about the alien subject, like imagining stories, like traveling across the universe with them. This would be a common story that my family would tell me before bedtime. But unfortunately, when I turned 8 years old, that you start to get introduced to video games, and I was introduced to video games, and then I had my own computer, and I started to eventually forget of ETs completely until I was around 16 years old.
That's young. I know one other person, her name is Samantha Mowat. She appears on this show very frequently, once a month, and she has literally had contact since she was a toddler. It's pretty amazing that age really has no boundaries with extraterrestrials.
Exactly. And this is something that after writing my book, I didn't notice until I announced that I was going to release a book. And of course, it's self-published. But my point here is that as soon as I announced the book, I had quite a lot of people confront me about this with skepticism. They could not believe that someone so young was going to be, publishing a book, and that I am a contactee and abductee pretty much. And this is something that I just started to notice and really know and be aware how many young people are rejected by older people, I would say, because of the age difference. And unfortunately, I could not cover this on the book because it was already released, but it's very interesting that a lot of young people are discarded. For example, there is this 16-year-old girl whose name I'm not going to mention because she's a minor, but she saw the book and she reached out to me because I was the only one speaking up for those who are actually younger and trying to introduce this new generation in the UFO community and the alien community, because I have been confronted with skepticism and rejection by older people. And one funny case about this is someone that I approached for a counseling session on the phone, and it was a person from MUFON. And this person was pretty much like trying to distort my stories, my experiences. And this person told me, you know what, you're so young, and why don't you just go find a job or go to college and just forget about all this nonsense and just have a normal life and forget about all this. And I could not believe what I was hearing, Dave, because I was trying to reach out to someone professional for help, someone that understood the subject of alien abduction. And in return, I get a cold shoulder, my stories get twisted, and I am discredited simply because of my age and the weird, quote unquote, ETs that I have been interacting with. So a lot of things have happened after releasing the book that I could not put in it because everything just exploded later on.
That's not the first time I have heard that MUFON has pushed someone away. And, you know, I think MUFON should be taken with a grain of salt with the way things are. But, you know, it shouldn't be age discriminatory if you're having experiences and you're going to them for help and for knowledge, trying to figure out what is going on, and they're telling you, well, go get a job. You'll grow out of this, or something along those lines.
Yes. It's very unfortunate because, you know, these people tend to be manipulated with fear. Remember that fear sells? I know that I have said this quote quite a lot, and it is true. When you are able to use someone's fear against them, you can control them. And so I cannot imagine how many other people have been, drifted away, pushed away over something, because, there's always someone looking for one away. And in my case, it was my age, and you're very young, and in other words, I was being called a naive person, and that I shouldn't really dive into these kind of topics and to just move on and get a life, pretty much. And this actually angered me because I had a feeling that what if this is happening to other people, but they are afraid of speaking up because they see these people as a authority, they're experts. So being an expert means that you are the authority in the community or your area of expertise. And so potential may feel intimidated over what these people say, because whatever they say, these people who are approaching them may feel, well, you know what I do, so maybe I should just shut up and move on. And I did that when I was 16. The first time that I approached someone to listen to me, and they told me that I was too young and that I needed to have a life, I retreated. I tried to forget everything that happened to me and the UFO sighting that my family had. But the ETs, were so persistent. They kept giving me dreams that I had to stay on this track because were hidden from me and that were buried in my subconscious mind that I needed to figure out, because something within me told me that I had a mission, something to do on this planet. I could not figure out what it was, but I decided to embark on this journey to figure out what it was.
How much did this redirect your life from, say, growing up being a little girl, maybe you wanted to be a doctor or a teacher or a policewoman or a firefighter or whatever you wanted to be? How did this totally change your concept of life when these experiences started?
In the beginning, I thought it was all BS, especially because I never really had evidence about the things that were for the past 6 years that I've been aware of have been in the dream state. And for those of you who may not be aware of the term astral projection, this is very close to having an out-of-body experience, which sometimes some people have during a near-death experience. And this is something that all of us can do, and we do automatically about 2 to 3 times a week. And having that falling back sensation may be a hint that your astral astral body was attempting to get out of your physical body. So that is one of the signs that can tell you that your consciousness was trying to get out of your physical vessel. And so because of this, all my interactions have been in this type of ethereal plane. And because of this, I never really have evidence, no physical marks, nothing, no implants, nothing that I can confirm that this has happened. Only my experiences, only my memories. And because of this, it was quite of a battle in the beginning, because I was very skeptical about what was happening to me. And when I was trying to tell my family about this, they had their doubts as well. They questioned whether I was imagining things, or, maybe I was kind of losing it. And in the beginning, it was quite hard to keep things to myself out of fear of being judged or questioned and have my sanity questioned, or being sent to a psychiatrist. So I decided to keep things to myself. But eventually I had to do something and research online whatever I could find. At the time, I was not aware of many terms that now are very common, like the MK Ultra programming and the military abductions things. And I wasn't aware of all those terms, so it was very difficult for me to try to find a community of people with similar experiences that I could talk with and share my experiences with.
As I've said many times on this show, the one thing that has really upset me, because I'm 43, and my experiences really started to go full force about 4 years ago, and I got launched into this where it ended my happily boring life. But like I say to people when they ask, well, what's it like? Because, people ask you all the time, and much like they ask me whether it's, around town or friends or whatever, and I said, imagine opening a door, and when you open that door and you walk in, on the other side of that door is another 10 doors. And each door that you open of those 10 doors, behind each of those 10 doors is another 10 doors each. And I said, it's ridiculous, because every time you think you're getting close to an answer, there's always another set of doors that you have to open. Do you find that too?
Oh, yes, definitely. This has been an ongoing journey. I had my spiritual awakening in 2010 after my alien abduction in 2009, which I'll get into it later. But since then, everything has been an ongoing journey. Learning, and it's understandable when people say you never stop learning. And, in the beginning I thought that was BS, but then I figured, what? It's true. We never really stop learning. There's always something new to learn every single day, not just about this planet or the people on this planet, but also at a higher level with these beings, for example, especially with them, that they are such vast beings with such an incredible amount of knowledge that goes beyond the comprehension of the human brain, that it is interesting that they spoon feed us little bits and pieces of information, so to not overwhelm us, because it's understandable that our evolution or brain's evolution cannot be compared to their evolution when it comes to the capacity of the information that they can hold in their consciousness. So I do feel that it is a learning process, especially because we are not prepared to comprehend a lot of information that may be too complex for the human brain to understand. So I understand that is why they spoon feed us. But you never really stop learning. And I feel that is one of the beauties of being alive and being aware of this physical 3D reality, because life is always going to be interesting, because you always have something new to learn about every day.
I'm very surprised by your poise. We've only been talking for about 12 minutes here, and I'm already impressed with your poise and the way you're able to explain things, because a lot of people come on these shows, and we've had it happen here, where they come out and they kind of lose their focus with what they're wanting to say, and you're right bang on here, and I commend you for that so early on in the show. I want to focus on you here for a minute, Zion. At what point, or maybe you're still struggling with it, did people start to take you seriously that you didn't have a psychological problem or a mental disorder?
That still happens from time to time. So I'm going to be honest with you right now. That still happens from time to time. And I do feel that this is always going to happen. However, I think in the beginning it was that way with my family. In the beginning, when I was telling them, hey, I had something weird happen. I saw these three beings at the end of my bed. Or when you guys saw the UFO, I saw this silhouette out of the corner of my eye in the bedroom. In the beginning it was quite hard because even though they were always very polite with me, they wouldn't say anything to offend me. But I could tell by the way that they looked at each other that they were secretly judging me and that they were questioning my sanity. And one of the reasons why I believe that they have questioned my sanity is because I was homeschooled. I never really went to an actual school. This was something that my mother decided to do, to homeschool me, because she never really trusted the system, and so she wanted me to stay out of it. And because of this, I never really had friends, so perhaps they thought that being so lonely for all of my life, pretty much, aside from being rejected by my cousins as a little kid, they would tell me ugly things like, you're a monster, you can't play with us because you're not from here. And they were referring to me being from the town and them being from the country. And so all these things made me feel like closed off, and I isolated myself from them and everybody else. And I wouldn't really talk with anybody but with my family. And so they thought that for so many years of being lonely, I think that they thought that I was starting to lose it in my teenage years. But I do feel that you're always going to be judged whether you speak about your experiences or not, whether you do something or not. So right now, I do feel that I have the power to choose if I feel offended or not, and it's really not my problem what people think about me, because I know that they're always going to judge me. But since they're not really doing something beneficial for me, well, I shouldn't really pay attention to what they're saying. And this has helped me to be stronger and to deal with a lot of trolls that have come my way.
And I can see the negativity because, as I said in the intro right off the bat, at 23 years old, people don't expect you to be knowledgeable like this. They expect you to be worrying about what you're going to do after college, or getting a job and starting your own career, or traveling and having some fun with the friends at a nightclub on a Friday night, dancing or something along those lines. But not for that lifestyle isn't for everybody. Miriam Delicado, who is a famous ET abductee, she had her contact in 1988 at the age of 22 years old. It wildly shaped her life differently than what she wanted. She wanted to be going to bars and having fun and meeting people and doing what young 20-year-olds do. But she couldn't because she was now on this new path. And at points, she probably thinks it ruined her life. Do you think that this contact has caused you any harm?
I don't think so, because I've always felt like I didn't belong. Not even in my family, I felt like I belonged. I always felt that there was something more to life than just going to school and having a job and having friends. I always had this feeling within myself ever since I was 2 years old. And I can remember as far back as 2 years old that I would go outside with my mom and my aunt to stargaze. And I would always look up into the stars with this deep feeling of sadness, as if I was waiting to see someone or waiting for someone to take me or to visit me. And I do feel that in a way this has been with me in my subconscious mind, but there was this specific age that I had to, quote unquote, wake up about it, to smell the coffee, in other words. And I do feel that everything was already there, but the wake-up call was during the UFO sighting that my family had, which triggered my interest into researching more about the alien and the UFO phenomena. But I don't feel that this has ruined my life. Well, In another way, it kind of feels that way, but sometimes I think to myself, you know what? I wish I was a normal person. I wish I had friends. I wish I could do normal things like going out to clubs and go party and get drunk. But then I really think about it, and that is not who I am. I've never really been interested in going out to clubs or getting drunk or having friends. I've always been more interested in having conversations with other people about different things, not the usual mainstream stuff about the pop artists or the reality shows or things like that. That is not fulfilling. That doesn't make me feel complete. And for this reason, I do feel like an outcast because unfortunately not many people around my age especially have those kinds of thoughts and similarities in mind.
And on that note, we are going to hop out for our first break of the night. Zion Zeta is our guest tonight. Her website is zionzeta.com if you want to check out her writings and check out what she is studying right now. She is an ET contactee. That's what we're talking about tonight on Spaced Out Radio. You're listening to the mighty SOR. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll be back right after this.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
Hi there. This is your medium, Joanna, from Spaced Out Weekend, 2 mediums and a large. I would love it if you would come and join us with host James Tyson every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. Together, we will take your calls and your questions live. Our goal is to provide you with a positive outlook on deep questions that you may have. Questions regarding love, relationships, money, or whatever else is on your mind. Come and check us out at spacedoutradio.com.
Every Saturday and Sunday night, as Dave Scott wanders aimlessly in the wilderness, you can come hang out with me, James Tyson, in Spaced Out Weekend. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I'll take you along as we talk with some of the best experts in their fields. SpacedOutRadio.com is the place to find us. So sit down, relax, put your feet up. Enjoy the topics like the paranormal, supernatural, intuitiveness, and so much more. Hope to see you there.
Hey everybody, this is Patrick Webster Small, and I'm here to bring you the Webster Phenomena every Saturday night. Live at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. If you're looking for aliens and extraterrestrials, well, we've got them. Big and tall, short and small. You're bound to find what you're looking for. So join me on the Webster Phenomena right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit. And expect a miracle.
Have you ever wondered about those weird and strange creatures people have reported throughout history? Do you wonder if those stories are real? Me too, and that's why I started Cryptopia.us. Hey, this is Rob Morphy, crypto historian. Join me once a month on Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott, where we will get into the odd and bizarre reports, from the Dover demon to hairy hominids and everything in between. I will break down what people like you and me are seeing at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost?
Look no further than Spaced Out Radio.
SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click on to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on radio
or our website, including social media.
From commercial spots to banners, we have it all.
Check out our competitive pricing today.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
Want to connect with us online? Find us on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show, on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, on Instagram, Dave Scott SOR, on YouTube, Spaced Out Radio Show, and our website is spacedoutradio.com. All right, space travelers, here comes the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. Tonight I am your host, Dave Scott. Tomorrow night on the show, we will be having Jeff Willis on the show. He is a ufologist out of Phoenix, Arizona. We're going to be talking the Phoenix Lights incident back in 1997. Yeah, we all remember that weird one, don't we? That's tomorrow night starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time, right here at spacedoutradio.com. Hey, if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show, and our website is spacedoutradio.com. While there, you can join up with the SOR Space Travelers Club. It only costs $5 a month on average. And with that, you get your name put into private group interviews. You get your name put into prize draws. We just made our first prize draw this past Friday. Joe Allgaier won our prize package, which was awesome. And you can check out our recent blogs. My newest one was posted today. It is in regards to the UFO landing that I saw back in 2014. I've described that in full detail on there. Check them out today, spacedoutradio.com. Tonight we are talking with Zeta, her website, zionzeta.com. She's a young ET contactee, just 23 years old, probably way too knowledgeable of this subject for what we are talking about, because usually we get people who are in their late 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and so on talking about this subject. Zion, welcome back.
Thank you so much, Dave, and once again, I am very honored to be here with you tonight.
I appreciate that. Before the break, you were talking about that you were actually quite skeptical that you were starting to see extraterrestrials. Tell us about the first experience you had when your parents were, I believe, out on the balcony watching a UFO.
June, I believe it was June 19 of 2009, approximately around 8 p.m. And I think it was a Friday night around 8 p.m. and my brother and my aunt were out getting some groceries. And all of a sudden, my mother receives a call on her cell phone and she just jumped out of her couch. And I was wondering what in the world just happened. But I kept minding my own business, online, just making dumb jokes with my friends from other parts of the world. Really, at the time, I wasn't really interested in my surroundings. I just cared about being online all day and just, watching videos or playing video games and so forth. I wasn't really doing anything with my life, and so I really didn't care whatever happened around me. And when I went to my bedroom, I needed to get a charger, and when I went to my bedroom, I saw this black silhouette out of the corner of my eye standing outside the window. It was like so dark, like that it really caught my attention. So when I quickly looked up to the window, I didn't see anybody there. And the funny thing about this, Dave, is that it was nighttime. It was already very dark outside, but outside the window of this apartment, there was a lake, and the lake had a light in it, so the room wasn't really completely dark. And it really caught my attention that someone would be standing there outside the window and the light just shining all around them, making the silhouette. And then I figured, well, maybe this is just a night trick, maybe I am just imagining things or whatever. And so I looked for my charger, and I know where I place things. And I wasn't finding it where I usually had it, which was inside a drawer. And the next thing I knew, it was right under the window. right next to the window. And I was like, why is that there? I know that my mom gets angry with me if I misplace things, so I always keep everything organized. But, I really didn't put much thought to it. So I got closer to the window and I looked out and I felt watched. And this was a very strange feeling. That was the first time that I actually felt watched by something that I could not see. So I became very, very fearful of this. So I decided to just run away and go back to the living room. But since the living room had a balcony, the balcony was facing towards the same place, which was the lake. And so I still felt watched. And I decided to, entertain myself on the computer and just distract myself. And about 15 to 20 minutes later, my family arrived again. And when I asked them, what happened outside? They all told me, oh, we saw a UFO. And my reaction was, obvious. I was very shocked. I didn't say anything about what happened to me because I knew for some reason that they were not going to pay attention to me or even listen to me. And so I asked them, how did it look like? And so my brother started to explain to us that it was round, it was disc-shaped because it had a light spinning underneath. So that's how he could tell that it was a disc-shaped UFO. The lights were red and white, which made me raise my eyebrow because I told them, well, maybe it was an airplane or a helicopter. And that's when they started to tell me it could not have been a helicopter or an airplane because they're not round and they're not silent or fly that low. Like, this spacecraft was very close to the electrical cables. And since this was an area that wasn't really very well lit, there wasn't really any light on the craft to see what color it was. It was just the lights underneath. And so they said that this craft started to float away very slowly until it disappeared behind a bunch of very large trees across the road. And so that's when they decided to, return. And I found it very interesting that they saw this while I saw something weird on the window. But again, I was quite skeptical about it. I thought that I was just having an eye trick or something. So I decided to discard that. But I started to remember that same night my interest that I had with the alien life and the UFOs. Child. And that's when I told myself, you know what? I think I'm going to start researching more about this subject because there has to be something more to life than what is already around me. And this is when I started to, put in on Google aliens, alien life and things like that. And that's when I started to encounter all these type of conspiracies, if you will, about the MK Ultra programming, military abductions, cattle mutilations, grays. I had no idea what was that. And that's when I figured that it was an alien race and alien abductions and things like that. And it was so much information that I came across that night that I was very overwhelmed. And again, I was just 16 years old at the time, so I was very confused. There was a lot of information that I had to process, and I did not want to talk about it with my family because at the time, I didn't think that it would be a good idea to do so. So I decided to keep everything to myself. And since I didn't have any friends at the time that were open about this was a very lonely journey in the beginning. And so a couple of months later, in November of 2009, my family and I had to move back to Puerto Rico. My aunt, my mother, and I, because my brother has already been living in Florida for many, many years. Things were not working out, so we had to move back to Puerto Rico. And in November, I think it was the 17th of 2009, around 5 in the morning, I could not fall asleep. And it was just one of those nights I could not fall asleep, and because I love sleeping, and I was very upset with this. And for some reason, I had the strangest feeling that something was going to happen. And it was storming that night, so the room would light up once in a while with the lightnings. And at some point, I was looking towards the window. And then a lightning struck and it lit the entire room, but it froze. So the whole room was illuminated for several seconds. And that's when I noticed what is going on here. And that's when, out of the corner of my eye, I spotted three beings, three silhouettes standing at the end of my bed. And so when I looked directly, there were three gray beings wearing black uniforms, no symbols or numbers or any letters in their uniforms. And as soon as I made eye contact with them, I decided to roll over in the bed to fall off of it to see if I could run away from them. But as soon as I rolled over, because I was beginning to feel paralyzed, my body started to become heavier as soon as I looked into their eyes. So when I rolled over, I blacked out, and there was approximately a 2-hour missing time. So when I woke up from the experience, I was very puzzled, very confused. I was wondering, was this real? Does this really happen, or was it a dream? But I don't think it was a dream because I never fell asleep. I was furious. I was upset. And that's why I was upset in the first place, because I could not fall asleep. And it was this battle within myself that I had, but I could not really talk about it when I knew that no one would believe me. So again, I decided to keep it to myself until January of 2010, where I came across the subject of astral projection. And this was one of those days where I am making research about alien life, and randomly I came across this website about astral projection. And I decided, hey, I don't believe this. I don't think this is real. But hey, I'm going to try it out on myself and see if this is real or not and draw my own conclusions. And so I started to research for techniques on the internet. And eventually I managed to have my first astral experience, which wasn't really a good one because I remember being taken to a spacecraft. But in the spacecraft, there were different grades that were assigned to different people. So it was one person per grade, and both of them would be taken to a separate so that they would have a conversation. So I was taken to a room with a gray, and in this room, I was making him many questions because I was very upset. I was recalling the abduction, and I was questioning him, why did you do this to me? What do you want from me? Why me? And he was not responding to me. And when I gazed into his eyes, I noticed that his skin was changing, and it was turning green with scales. And that's when I asked him, "You're a reptilian, aren't you?" And that's when he nodded at me saying, "Yes, I am." And as soon as I tried to run away from him, he changed his appearance completely. And he was approximately 4 feet tall in the beginning, but as soon as his reptilian self or his real self revealed to me, he was approximately 7 feet tall. And so I tried to run away from him, but he pinned me down and I experienced rape. And then I just blacked out from the experience. But then I continue to astral project. I continue to practice this. But my friends told me that I needed to have a focus because at the time of discovering the subject, I got into a small group of spiritual people. And that's when they all told me, "Yo, you need psychic protection because you're going to come across weird things in the astral plane." And I'm like, thanks a lot for telling me after I got myself into trouble. I appreciate that. But this time I focus on a more earthy destination, if you will. But the best destination that I could choose at the time was to practice astral projection to military bases. And you might be wondering, why in the world did you choose that target? because I needed to have something that I could confirm later on by looking it up on the internet. So in other words, I wanted to have a target that I wasn't familiar with, but that I could confirm at some point later by looking pictures of those places on the internet. So that's why I chose the military bases. So I started to continue practicing astral projection, and I did manage to go to military bases. However, their locations are unknown to me, but they do feel that they were taking place in different areas of the United States, simply because some areas look familiar to me when it comes to the landscapes, mountains, like Sedona, Colorado, Nevada as well. So these things, these landscapes have helped me a little bit to identify where these bases are, but it's really, really hard to tell sometimes because they are really isolated and they are in very deserted places. And because of trying to, confirm this to myself by astral projecting to military bases, I started to see the black helicopters. And I thought that this wasn't, a big deal. I thought that, I discovered America. These helicopters are black. Maybe they have always been there, but I just became aware of them, But then my friends told me that that's not normal, especially in Puerto Rico, in Arecibo where you live. And you know that in Arecibo, we have the famous radio telescope. And I was like, well, maybe they're looking something in that area over there, which is in the mountains pretty much, or who knows, I was very skeptical about what was happening to me because again, why me? I'm really nothing special. I'm just a random human being getting into these things that have to do with spirituality and the new age and subjects about extraterrestrials. So I don't really think that I am a threat to anybody. But that's when things started to get weird by, starting to receive online threats and eventually encountering the men in black. So I don't know if you want to say something, Dave, here.
Well, you've gone through a lot here in such a short period of time, and there's a lot of heavy things. I want to rewind you here for a little bit because I have seen the Greys in the blackish silver suits, and they don't communicate very well. They were very robotic, to say the least, when I dealt with them. Did you find that as well?
Unfortunately, I cannot recall my abduction, but by that glimpse that I had, I could tell that these particular ones didn't really have emotions at all. And so I believe that they perhaps did not understand why I was having such a reaction, because by not having emotion, you do not have empathy, so you cannot relate to what the other person is feeling. So it doesn't make sense to you. Why is a person reacting in such a way? They're trying to understand how emotions work, and so since they don't have emotions of their own, they cannot really understand what we're feeling. And that is one of the reasons why some groups are studying the emotions of the human race, and some of them are trying to incorporate that because they want to be like us. They want to be more human, quote unquote, and they can start to do that by incorporating emotions. And I do feel that this is more common with Greys that seem to be clones, that are robotic in nature, that want to have an understanding of the human emotions, because again, they may be organic vessels, if you will, but they're not really completely living beings, because they're not natural, because they are created, they are fabricated. So they want to start to merge more with that physical, if you will, aspect, so that they can become not just a machine, but a more compassionate and more humane machine of sorts, so that they can start to become more normal. as far as I am aware.
You also mentioned that while in astral projection, that you felt that you were raped by a reptilian being.
Yes.
That's awfully personal in regards to having that horrific experience. Now, when you're astral projecting, you're going and leaving your body spiritually. So, do you feel that your spirit was tainted with?
I don't really feel that way because I do feel that in the beginning it was a very disturbing experience. It was my first time actually feeling someone invading me. So it was very disturbing in a sense, but in another sense, I do feel that I had to rise above this situation, because as soon as I put that type of thought, like I want to rise above this because I'm not going to let this affect me, I do feel that we all have the power to choose whether we want to feel that we are tainted or not. I do understand that rape is a very traumatic experience, but I do believe that we all have the power within ourselves to stand up in regards to this situation and heal from this. I do firmly believe that we are the ones that we can sometimes give our power away to someone else when they take it away from us. So some people may not think of it this way, but I do feel that once you give your power away to another person because apparently they took it from you, you have to realize that you have a free will. You have your own individual mind, and you have power over this situation, even if you feel powerless, even if you feel hopeless. And as soon as you're aware of this, you can become a very powerful person, and the healing process can be quicker. I'm not saying that a lot of people that have been raped can fully heal from this type of experiences, but they do have that spark within themselves that they have to become aware of that they have. It is never taken away from you because it belongs to you, because you are an individual being. But you have to be aware of this. And this is something that happened to me. You know, in the beginning, I was traumatized. I was disturbed. I was like, someone raped me. And even though this did not happen in the physical reality, it felt very real. And it feels humiliating. And I don't know what to do about this other than, accept what happened and be willing to heal from this, because I know that this was not my fault. I was not looking for this to happen to me. And as soon as I became aware of my own thoughts and the power of changing my thoughts, the negative thoughts that were affecting me, like the guilt that sometimes comes with it, or the fear that this may happen again, as soon as I realized that I have the power of changing my mindset, that's when I managed to recover pretty much from this situation.
And I can understand that. And I can understand where, having that happen on an astral projection probably feels the exact same way as a woman who is raped on a physical and emotional sense, with her body being used. I mean, in this portion, they used your mind and your soul and not your body. Yet you stand up very strong by that. And I'm amazed at the strength you were showing by that, because for a lot of women, it almost brings a cultural divide between what they can trust and who they can trust compared to who they can't. And that list of who they cannot trust becomes ever so longer.
Yes. And you know what? Sometimes I am even fearful of men on this planet, because even though I've never really been raped physically, that feeling is always there. That impression is always there that it could happen at any given point. Even from your closest friends or even family members, it can happen with anybody, really. And this is something that gets triggered when some men on the internet harass me and send me their nudes and things like that, because it makes me distrust men even more. And I know that I cannot lump men, all of them, into a group. But unfortunately, my experiences have been, so many of them have been negative, that it's absolutely normal and understandable that some women are fearful of all men, even if they've had few experiences with some of them that have not been positive, and it's understandable. But again, it's a healing process. It takes time. And so women should really honor themselves, and men too, because men can also, some of them are raped too. So it's all a learning process and a healing process, and we should not rush ourselves to heal fully and rapidly. We are all like different individual flowers, and we all bloom differently. Some do bloom faster than others. And so this is how people should take their healing process, as something that goes at their own perfect pace, which may differ from others, but that doesn't mean that you're not healing. It's just that you're healing at your own speed, if you will.
On that note, we are going to hop out for a break here at the top of the hour. Hour number 1 is done. Hour number 2 with Zion Zeta coming up right after this. Her website, zionzeta.com, if you want to check it out. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll be back right after this.
Greetings and salutations, space travelers, from the Chronicles of the Unknown team.
What is Chronicles of the Unknown? I keep hearing about this thing.
It's a new paranormal reality TV show based right here in beautiful British Columbia, Canada. Follow our team as we uncover claims of activity on the Caribou Gold Rush Trail. You can also follow us here every third Monday, where 2 members of our team will be available to answer your questions. We'll give you some equipment updates and some of our experiences on the road, right here on Spaced Out Radio on the Spreaker.com network.
Oh, there's only one way to rock. Loud and proud. In high definition. Radio 702 rocks. Las Vegas.
Do you believe you've been in contact with extraterrestrials? Have you seen the Greys, the Mantids, or the Reptilians? I am Samantha Mullet, and on the second Tuesday of each month, you can listen and learn from my experiences with off-worlders on Spaced Out Radio's The ET Experience. With host Dave Scott, we'll sit down and chat about what's going on with our friends from other worlds. We'll also try to answer your questions, so please tune in on the second Tuesday of the month, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza, and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest, from Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird? Right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Attention Spaced Out Radio listeners. For only $5 a month, you can join Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers. Your membership at spacedoutradio.com will give you access to private fan area on the website, get you a monthly newsletter, draws for monthly swag, and a whole lot more. Sign up today to become a part of the Spaced Out Radio experience.
Right here, this is where we divulge the fruit of our research. Here on the Webster Phenomena every Saturday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern on Spaced Out Radio. And we give it up to you guys, all the listeners, and the live listeners usually get something special and hang out in the chat room. And we love to have you. So we'll see you every Saturday night at 8 p.m. You know where.
If you're a fan of social media, you can follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can also follow us on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR. Our YouTube channel, where our archives are stored, is Spaced Out Radio Show. And of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. Welcome back for the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the show, we will be talking with ufologist Jeff Willis. We're going to be talking about the 1997 Phoenix Lights. See if there's any new information on that and what truly happened over Phoenix that March 13th of 97. 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time, we fire things up here on the mighty SOR. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. And our website is spacedoutradio.com. Be like Joe Allgaier, because he signed up and he won our first prize draw just this past Friday night. We do it the final Friday of every month. When you sign up for the Space Out Radio SOR Space Travelers, you automatically are entered into prize draws. You get a private section for posting on our website. You get access to private monthly group interviews. We're going to be starting that up very soon, and so much more coming down the pipe. We give you a heck of a lot more than just access to our archives. While on our website, you can check out our resident music master, Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses. All of our music is provided by him. You can read my latest blog on the UFO landing that I saw in 2014. We have other blogs up there as well. And you can check out the latest on the SOR Newswire by our news director, Eric Markham. Everything is at spacedoutradio.com. Tonight's password for the SOR Space Travelers is Cottywomple. Bill Cardwell has set the password for you space travelers tonight. Use it wisely. Cottywomple. Yes, Cottywomple. Trying to figure it out, but that's the password for tonight. We bring in Zion Zeta, who is our guest tonight. ZionZeta.com is her website, if you want to check it out. Zion, welcome back.
Thank you, Dave, for having me, and it's been really amazing, and I have been having a lot of fun being on your show tonight.
Right before the break, we were talking about an incident you had while astral projecting your body or your soul or whatever you astral projected. And it was the first time doing that, and you didn't have a very pleasant experience with a reptilian that was about 7 feet tall. Now, a lot of times on this show, we will talk to people, and we will hear people say, I don't care, I just want to have an experience, good or bad. I just need to know that this is real. But in your case, it really is a be careful what you wish for type of scenario, because you didn't protect yourself. You didn't, say prayer or surround yourself with love, light, or the golden light, or whatever you want to surround yourself to protect yourself. You went in just wanting to know what was going on, and you really got the worst of the worst. So how important is that for you, Zion, going forward, to really forewarn people, be careful what you wish for?
You know what, Dave? It's funny that you say be careful what you wish for, because before getting into this, before my abduction by the Grace back in 2009, one night I was stargazing and I was just in deep thought, and I told myself in my own mind, if it's true that the Greys are going extinct and that they need, to create hybrids to survive, I am willing to help them, and I am willing to have their hybrid children if this means to save their race. And shortly after was my abduction. And so when it comes to astral projection, protection is very, very important because it can prevent horrible experiences like this one, for example. Because again, you're exposing yourself to beings, to entities that you don't know what is their agenda. It's just like going out at night to a place that has a very bad reputation. You just don't know what to expect or what's going to happen there. And so I always tell people now that if they're going to do a psychic reading, Reiki work, or astral projection, whatever it is that has to do with working with the energies of the other side, to always protect yourselves with whatever methods that you resonate with. And you don't really have to ask the angels if you don't believe in angels. I know that some people try to make it seem that way, that they are the only ones that can protect you, but that is not true. Remember that you have your own power and the power of your guides and other beings, your ancestors. There's a lot of spirits, entities around you that work for your highest good. Beings and spirits that come from a place of unconditional love that are willing to help you, to give you guidance, to protect you. But all you have to do is ask. And I didn't ask because I always felt that I was bothering them. And I know that kind of sounds ridiculous, but that's how I thought back then. I was like, I don't want to bother anybody. I'm just going to learn how to deal with it on my own. After all, I've always done everything on my own. So, it's no different here. But I was very wrong. We are humans and we have a limited amount of power, especially if you have not tuned in to your spirituality. Once you have become more open, more aware of your spiritual nature, and that life is so much more complex than it seems, you will be able to see beyond the illusion that this is all we have on planet Earth. And when you go beyond the illusion, that's when you will finally start to realize the power that you have within yourself. You don't have to give it away to anybody else. I've seen people who worship other people, and this doesn't really make any sense because, if that is your thing, I'm not going to judge you, but do not give your power away. You can worship someone or an entity, but always know that you are also powerful. And as soon as you realize this, you will become more aware of the energy, of the power that you have within yourself to protect yourself. And trust me, you can do so much more than having a 9-to-5 job. And I do feel that if you feel a calling, that they will open up the doors to bring in the knowledge that you may be seeking. And they will guide you as long as you are open to the unknown. Of course, with the necessary protection, because you don't want to be open to random beings coming into your field, to your auric field, to your personal space. You always want to have a layer of protection, but do not put limitations or expectations, which are another way of putting limitations on how they can communicate with you. They will find a way to give you the guidance and the protection that you're seeking, and they will let you know in a way that is easy for you to understand.
And I understand that, and I can appreciate that. But for most people out there, like I said right before I asked you the question, they basically say, I don't care if it's positive or negative. I just want an experience. But it's still quite dangerous to not protect yourself because it's like playing with fire. Sometimes you're not going to get burnt, but there is that chance, the more you approach that flame, that your hand or your foot or whatever it is going to get burned. And it's exactly what this is about. So you have to make sure that you take the precautions. Is that right?
Exactly. I know that for some people, they kind of do it like a game, like playing the Ouija board or things like that, or going to a cemetery to, disturb the dead or things like that. You have to be really careful with what you do because it is definitely going to backfire to you. And I do feel that if you are not too sure about something, don't get into it, because it can be very scary to do so, because the consequences can be very severe, to say the least.
Let's get to a couple questions that we have from our audience here. Claudia would like to know, in the SOR Space Travelers Club on Facebook, what kind of protection do you use against extraterrestrials or hostile ETs?
I use the circle of light in your favorite color. It doesn't have to be white. In my case, it always works whenever I use a color blue. And this is one thing that I always tell people. You can use any type of method of psychic protection, but always customize it. Always add your own energy to it. So in my case, let's say that we use the very common technique of light, of surrounding yourself inside a bubble of light. Some people like to see a white light. Others like to have the golden light. But in my case, I decided to change the color and to make it blue, because I've always resonated with the color blue. And I am sure that if you guys have seen my website already, there's a heck of a lot of blue. So blue has always worked for me, especially because it's my own energy that I am adding to it. It's like a part of me that I am including in the protection technique. So that one is very simple. And this is one that I recommend to everybody, whether you believe in angels or not, because it's very neutral. And it's for everybody that, whether you're a follower of angels or not, it can help you to protect yourself psychically. Of course, you never lose anything by, calling upon your guides, and especially upon your higher self, which is the one that's actually going to be traveling outside your body and may have interactions with ETs, whether benevolent or hostile. So you always should ask your guides, or even your higher self. If you don't believe in your guides or something like that, you can call upon your own higher self and ask your higher self to bring in the protection that you need if you're going to travel outside your body, to help you to interact with beings that come from a place of unconditional love. Because again, a being may not necessarily be from the light, but can be actually an entity that works for others, that is service to others. And this is something that I have encountered with some reptilians and draconians, that they may seem dark, but they're actually working for the light. It's just that they don't look like that. And in a way, it has to do with their appearance, because they look intimidating for a lot of people, but that doesn't mean that all of them have a negative agenda towards you. So always say, I invite only those that come from a place of unconditional love. And I declare myself protected, grounded, shielded, blessed, if you believe in blessings, and absolutely, protected. And start with protection. For example, I am protected, I am shielded, I am grounded, I am centered, and I am protected because I am. And end it with that note. You can make a little prayer if you wish, or just keep it simple. And that's another way that you can use to, utilize to protect yourself psychically. Aside from the visualization of the white light or the bubble of your favorite color, to, picture yourself inside of it, but always add your own energy, your own flavor to it, so that it works better for you.
Galen has a question for you. On your website, you have some really cool drawings on there. So she's asking, do some people whom you have shared your pictures with, are they fearful of what you have drawn?
My mother was. If you're referring to the hand-drawn drawings that I have on my website, these beings, I saw them on random places, like in the carpets and the rugs and the walls on the ceilings. This is a very interesting story that started happening to me in 2011. I went one night to brush my teeth, but when I went to grab the towel, I scared myself because I saw the face of Gray in the towel. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is this doing here? And I had the strangest feeling of grabbing my notebook and to start to draw. And at the time, I did not draw. In fact, I was a frustrated person because I could not even draw a decent circle. So, what do you know? I am drawing the face of a gray in the bathroom at 1 in the morning. So when my mom walks into the bathroom, she asked me, what are you doing there with a notebook? And I told her, I'm just drawing something that I am seeing. And she told me, whatever, just go to bed. It's late now. So the next day when I approached her with a drawing, she could not believe what I was showing her. And she asked me, how did you do this? And I told her, I don't know. But I saw this in the towel of the bathroom. You're seeing things in the bathroom's towel? And I was like, yes, Mom, I told you last night, but you didn't listen to me. That's why in the beginning I was very hesitant to say some things because they wouldn't listen to me. And as the weeks kept going and going, I kept drawing and drawing up to 3 portraits a week of the beings that I could see in the towel. And then it started to be in the rugs until I started to see them in the walls and in the ceilings. And so one time my mother approached me and she said, you need to stop drawing them because you don't know who they are. And you're bringing them to life because you are adding your energy and their energy to a notebook, which is a physical thing. And I was like, but I don't know why am I doing this, but I do feel the need to draw them. And she told me to stop. She commanded me to stop drawing them because I would get into trouble. So I had to pay attention to her and I had to stop drawing them even though I was 18 years old in 2011. So the next morning, my mother woke me up terrified because she wanted me to go to the bathroom to see something. So when I went to the bathroom with her, there was a hand printed on the towel. And the hand looked very skinny to be my own hand, and it looked smaller than my own hands because I am the one with a small. Well, I have large hands, but I have very slender fingers, and it wasn't my hand. It wasn't her hand because her hands are very thick. Her fingers are very thick, and my aunt's hands are even thicker. They're very large and thick. So we were wondering what in the world happened here. And that's when I started to question everything. And I was like, well, Mom, maybe you didn't really print your full hand in it, but maybe you gently touched the towel when you were bleaching your hair. I haven't bleached my hair, and you know that. And so I figured, well, maybe it was my aunt. And since my aunt works with chemicals in her job, maybe she wiped her hand. And she was like, no. Her hands are too big and her fingers are too thick. And so I figured, well, you know what? I'm just going to take a couple of pictures and I'll post it in the MUFON forum. Because at the time they had a forum on their website. And so they told me that it could have been anything. And they brushed it off. And a couple of weeks later, I posted all of the drawings that I was doing so far. I could see in that towel and on the other towels that came after that one. And 2 investigators told me that perhaps this was just a case of pareidolia. I don't know if I am pronouncing it correctly, but it is when the brain interprets faces in random places that are not actually there. That's the natural way of the brain to scan things and make sense of it. So it doesn't really mean that this is something real. But the thing is that I started to meet some of these beings that I had drawn already. I started to see them in the astral plane. And not only that, but I started to be approached in my dream state and in the astral plane by some entities that wanted me to draw them. And if you guys are on my website, zionzeta.com, you can see on the Otherworldly Gallery, right underneath the About Me button, I believe, you can see that some of them have pointed out that I have a story about them, especially in the button of the About Me section. There is a drop-down menu where you can see 2 different web pages. One is titled The Draconian General, and the other one is titled The Reptilian Lady. And these 2 have been highlighted because they have been very important to me, because they were beings that, well, the general was someone that I drew before meeting him. And the reptilian lady showed up to me to ask me to draw her. So there's 2 different cases that are similar because they both include having to draw them in some way. And so when I told them, you know what, I don't know why, but I am meeting some of these beings after drawing them. And I don't know what is happening and I want answers, or can you please refer me to someone that can help me with this? And they told me that we don't think that these beings are real. Maybe you are suggesting yourself to the point that you're dreaming of them now. And maybe you're dreaming now of seeing other beings because your subconscious wants to be more creative. So maybe this is your way of telling yourself to draw beings that are not real. And I was like, you know what? I give up. I'm not gonna bother anymore. I'm just gonna leave this forum and just forget about this whole thing, because I wasn't really receiving the help that I was seeking, that I was looking for. So I decided to just move on from it and just keep drawing on my own and just keep the drawings for myself.
I got a question from Dawn in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker for you. She's asking, Zion, have you ever had interactions with anything else other than ETs, ghosts, spirits, dead relatives, demons, or anything like that?
I have had my interactions with spirits. For some reason, I've always been very receptive to them. As a young child, when I was 5, I used to live in an apartment that was on a 3rd floor. And one time I had this dream of this Victorian couple, and this woman was very angry when she saw me, and she approached me. And she asked me, oh, do you want to see how I died? And I was very afraid and telling her no. But she took me to the balcony, and she just threw me out of the balcony. And it was a 5-story building that took place approximately in the 1800s or so. In the early 1800s or something like that, was her past life there, in that same place where this building was standing on the present date, which was around 1998 when I had that dream that I was 5 years old. I have had interactions with demons because in my country, black magic is practiced very heavily. So is voodoo and hoodoo and things like that. And living in Puerto Rico, you're always exposed to all kinds of things when it comes to magic, because there's always someone, a neighbor or someone that's close to you that works with magic. So I feel that being so exposed to these kinds of magical energies has brought in a couple of interesting entities that I wouldn't consider demons, but they were not exactly benevolent at all. Things that I can share about that has to do with a demonic interaction was when my mother in 2011 had a demonic possession. She was very depressed, and she was like the one that was the weakest, energetically speaking, in the family. And so one time I could tell that she was in bed crying, but I could tell that she was acting different. And so when I approached her, I could tell that her face was slightly changing and her tone of voice was turning deeper and raspy. And I was like, something's not right here. And the only thing that I could do right off the bat was to grab a crucifix that she had. And I had a medallion with me, and I placed that medallion on her forehead. I don't remember which saint it was. And I placed the cross on her chest. And I started to speak in another language. And I sat on top of her because she was trying to move violently and to toss me off of her. And my aunt was helping me to hold her down while I talked in another language. And the more that I talk in this language, the more aggressive she became. But eventually, she seemed to calm down and her facial structure returned back to her normal self. And the reason why I say this is because her cheekbones were looking very pointy. Her chin was also beginning to look pointy. And I don't know if I was hallucinating or if I was seeing something or if her actual face was changing. But something happened that for some reason maybe I was able to stop it halfway there. But that is, I would say, the only interaction that I've had that had this demonic nature to it.
We have about 1 minute here before we're going to go to air or go to our commercial here at the bottom of the hour. When you see that demonic possession, I've never seen that before, and most people out there really haven't had that. What is the energy like to be around that?
The room dropped in temperature. It was very, very cold. I was literally shaking. It felt like there was this sinister energy around, like I could perceive this shadow walking around the room. And just being in contact with her and knowing that it is not her was already very... And just seeing her face changing was even more disturbing because this has never happened. So it definitely felt very dark and very sinister. I could not chicken out. I had to either act or who knows what could have happened if I didn't do whatever it was that I could do at the moment. I had to just act on my impulses.
Let's hop out for a break here at the bottom of the hour. Our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio is Zion Zeta. Her website, zionzeta.com. If you want to check it out, we're talking about her ET experiences. Imagine being 23 and getting downloaded with all this information. That's heavy stuff for somebody so young. We're going to find out more right after this. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll be back in a moment.
Have you ever had an extraterrestrial experience? One you just couldn't explain? Well, maybe I can help. Hello, I am Samantha Mullet. On the second Tuesday of each month, I will join Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio to bring a human aspect to ET contact. It's something I've lived with my entire life, and I'd love to help you understand. Let's share our experiences. The ET Experience, the second Tuesday of each month, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Fairies? Bigfoot? Dogmen? Trolls? Goblins? Hey, if it's cryptid in any way, I'm looking into it. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, also known as Spaced Out Radio's Crypto Guru. Join me every second Wednesday of the month on Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott, where we will talk about the stories people call tall tales. I will fill you in on the latest sightings and the hidden histories that are causing quite a stir. You can find everything at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is Jolene with Rivulet Reiki and Readings, and I want you to relax. Let me help you chill out and get in touch with your body, mind, and soul. In this busy world, sometimes we need to let go, and this is where I can help. Visit my website, rivuletrndr.wix.com/rivuletrndr, or my Facebook page, Rivulet R&R, to set up an appointment for relaxation, Reiki, or readings, no matter where you are. It's time for you to make time for you.
Would you like to expand your clientele? Have you ever thought of online radio advertising? Check out spacedoutradio.com to get your name out there. Our listeners support those who advertise with us, so why not give it a try? We have the most competitive advertising prices out there. Just click on the advertising tab on spacedoutradio.com and contact us today.
Are you an ET experiencer, but you just don't know what's going on? Are you too timid or shy to discuss it with anyone? Maybe I can help. Join me, R. Keith Andrews, the first Friday of every month on Spaced Out Radio, and I will help you to find the answers you're looking for. Together, I will help you understand the off-worlders and the true meanings behind your experiences. All you have to do is join us in the Spaced Out Radio chat room. See you there.
Every Saturday and Sunday night, as Dave Scott wanders aimlessly in the wilderness. You can come hang out with me, James Tyson, in Spaced Out Weekend. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I'll take you along as we talk with some of the best experts in their fields. SpacedOutRadio.com is the place to find us. So sit down, relax, put your feet up. Enjoy the topics like the paranormal, supernatural, intuitiveness, and so much more. Hope to see you there.
Hi there, this is your psychic medium Joanna, and I would love it if you would join us every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. With host James Tyson, we'll bring you personal psychic messages on two mediums and a large. Questions about love, life, career changes. We would love it if you would come and join us live. Call in and listen in for the experience. Allow us to open the doors to your other side. Two mediums and a large, heard only on Spaced Out Weekend at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
Do you have a topic or a guest that you'd like to hear on Spaced Out Radio? Let us know at spacedoutradio.com, where you can sign up to become a Space Traveler member today. Or you can find us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on our Facebook page, Spaced Out Radio Show. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you with us. Busy chat rooms in the SOR Space Travelers Club, as well as the SOR Space Travelers on Facebook. Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker. Thank you, everyone, for participating tonight. Tomorrow night on the show, we're going to go back in time, almost 20 years. March 13th, 1997. That's when the Phoenix Lights appeared. Jeff Willis will be our guest from Phoenix tomorrow night on Spaced Out Radio. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show, and our website is spacedoutradio.com. While there, join up for just $5 a month on average for the SOR Space Travelers Club. You can be like Joe Algier, win a prize, because we give away prizes every final Friday of the month during the SOR Roundtable. Joe is the first inaugural winner. He's number one in that category. Bill Cardwell was number one to actually sign up for the Space Travelers about a month ago. So you want to be like them. Sign up. You get your name put in prize draws. You get access to private sections on our website. You get access to private group interviews. We're going to start those up pretty soon, and so much more. Unlike the other guys who just give you access to their archives, not us. We're giving back to you, our valued Spaced Out Radio listener. So join the SOR Space Travelers Club today. You can also read up on my blog. Click on the blog tab. It'll go straight to my blog. It's about my ET landing that I witnessed back in April of 2014. That's an interesting story indeed. We have other great writers who are blogging. We also have the SOR Space Wire from Eric Markham. And if you like our music, check out Eric Markham, or if you like our music, check out Bumblefoot, Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses, as he is our resident music maestro. Tonight we are talking ETs, abductions, and so much more with young Zion Zeta. Her website, zionzeta.com. Zion, welcome back.
Thank you, Dave, and I am so glad that hopefully all of you listeners have been enjoying the show and have been finding all the information helpful. The reason why I am public with all of this is because I know that this can benefit a lot of people. So I hope that I have been able to bring a lot of valuable information to all of you, as well as to you, Dave.
I appreciate that. Before we go any further, I actually forgot to mention the SOR Space Travelers password set by Bill Cardwell. It's Codawample tonight. Codawample. I don't know what it means, but it sounds like a good one. So if you're a space traveler, make sure you use that properly tonight with the SOR Space Travelers Club. I want to get to a question from Claudia in the SOR Space Travelers for you. In your communication with extraterrestrials, namely the Greys and some reptilians, have they ever told you what they think of humans? Are we like children to them spiritually, mentally?
They have never really said anything about the human race as a whole. However, the interactions that I've had with the Greys, they have been trying to understand why we are killing each other. And this is something, since some of them do not have emotions, they cannot understand the suffering, the anger, what is happiness. So in a way, they cannot understand why are we having all these senseless wars against one another, because according to them, we are one race. So in a way, in their logical mind, since they don't have emotions, some of them, they're trying to piece together, why are we killing each other, and why are we not protecting one another from outside threats? And they're not referring to a extraterrestrial threat, because they have been very clear that humanity will not be destroyed by an outside force, but from within. And they do not understand why we keep mistreating planet Earth and why we have all these wars. And so they think that we are quite childish and quite immature. And they say that we have a lot of work to do to evolve as a whole. They do have hope, or what they perceive to be hope, because they may not understand what that means or how it feels like. But according to them, they gave me that word as a way to express in the human language what they perceive. So what they perceive that we know of as hope, they believe that there is a chance that humanity will evolve, but that it will take a long time to do so, because there are many people that are awake, but not enough to cause a big positive impact on the planet that causes all the other people to wake up. And so one message that they have given me in 2015, when it was revealed to me that my purpose was public speaking, they say that this is what is going to bring in disclosure. They will not make themselves known because they do not belong on this planet. They say that it is up to us to bring in our experiences with them to the rest of the population, so that the other people who may not be prepared for them can start to open up to their energy, to their appearances, to who they are and what they do. And so that's why they were so persistent with me to go public with my experiences in a way, because they know that what I share will benefit a lot of people. And this will continue to inspire other people to be public, or to at least have a validation that they are not alone. You know, this is the whole point of me going public, to inspire some who feel the calling to speak up about their experiences, or to at least feel that they are not alone on their journey and that there are others out there like them. And so I do feel that they're not very judgmental. For some reason, I have never really perceived them to be so judgmental, but they can be quite humorous, or they try to attempt to be, because they know that I love humor and that I use it a lot to express things that I wouldn't say seriously out of fear of offending people. So this is something that they have been observing about me and trying to implement. So whenever they refer to the human race as a whole, they lovingly, what I perceive to be loving, of course, refer to us as the kids of the universe, because we still have a long way to go. But again, they do have hope that we will evolve and be like them in the future. Dave, are you there?
I sure am. am. My Skype cut out that time. Okay. Claudia has another question. You touched on emotions there momentarily. In your interactions with the beings that you have had contact with, have any of them shown any emotion to you or towards what they are doing?
The Draconians. The Greys are not very expressive because, again, the group that I am in contact with now is a group that abducted me in 2009. And what I perceive from them is they're trying to understand love, but they do definitely show compassion. Because sometimes when I have seen them, and I'm speaking from 2015 to the present, they have understood my panic attacks and how I get triggered by their appearance. So they have shown me compassion and respect, and they back off and they just leave the room so that I can calm down. The reason why I say this is because the Draconians that I am in contact with are their leaders. This group of Greys that abducted me in 2009 work for this group of Draconians. And so the Draconians are more expressive. They do have emotions. They do experience emotions fully, and they can express them with facial expressions and actions. So they are definitely very empathic as well as telepathic. So whenever I cannot communicate something in the English language to them, because my interactions with all of them have been in English instead of Spanish, which is my mother tongue. Whenever I cannot say something in either of those two languages, they just tell me, just tune into your heart and we will know. And it's because they can read emotions, because they can feel them, the Draconians at least.
Shar has a question in the SOR in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker. She is asking, do you feel that you have been used to create hybrid children?
It felt that way in the beginning. When it was revealed to me that the reason of my abduction was for hybrid purposes, I did feel used, but then I remembered that I had agreed to this consciously, because before my abduction, I had stated it already while stargazing. You know, I told myself, you know what, if they need hybrid children because their race is going extinct, or they want to incorporate human emotions to their hybrid children, I am willing to do this. So I remembered that I had agreed to this, and according to them, I had already agreed to this before reincarnating on Earth, which is because here's the funny thing. This specific group of Greys, which is a small one, that work for the Draconians that I am in contact with, all right, they don't have emotions. So they feel weirded out in a way, that I am panicking when they're doing this process of hybridization, because I had agreed to this before reincarnating. And since they don't have emotions, they cannot feel how it feels like to be under amnesia. They do understand the concept of amnesia because they can cause it in the person that they're working with to not traumatize them. But they cannot understand it, how it feels like, because they cannot comprehend emotions. So that's why they felt weirded out when I was freaking out on them on board the spacecraft, because you had already agreed to this, so why are you reacting that way? Because they cannot understand amnesia. And because of this, it's quite funny, because they can cause amnesia, but they cannot understand how it feels like. And so they have participated in an experiment where one of them would go through the process of amnesia for a temporary moment, not permanently. And since, again, they don't have emotions, they cannot understand our reactions. And typically, well, their reaction is a neutral one because they cannot express things. And it's funny, emotions, but in a way I can feel what they feel, which is nothing. And so in a way, they have been studying my emotions to try to incorporate it to their own consciousness, or at least to the hybrid children that I am having with them. The thing here is that the project is not working because there is a defect in my DNA. And the reason why I say this is because I am not a very emotional person. I have learned to neutralize my emotions and to not express what I think. And this has been caused by the constant bullying that I had during my childhood and teenage years. And because of this, I became even more closed off. And because of this, the project of the hybrids has not been working because I am very neutral when it comes to emotions and expressing them as well as my feelings. And so the purpose of my reincarnation on Earth, one of them, is to be fully expressive. And in the sense of being creative can help me to be a very expressive person, which is why I do art, I do psychic readings, I do rites, I do a lot of things. I even do hula hooping, a 23-year-old hula hooping. But this is something that anybody of any age can do. But what I am trying to say here is that being a creative person has helped me to be more emotionally expressive. And because of this, I am losing the fear of expressing my feelings and emotions. And because of this, they have slowed down the project of the hybrids because they know that they are closer to figuring out what it is that they need to correct within me in order to fully incorporate the emotions in a hybrid. But it's all beginning to work out the more expressive I become by being more creative.
Another question from Stone in the Space Out Radio chat room on Spreaker. Zion, why do the Greys use memories in apparition form to provoke an emotional reaction?
Because they are studying our emotions. Because, again, we are individual beings, so we all react differently. So they may use the same scenario on different people because they know that they will get different reactions, and they want to understand why people have different reactions. And this is actually helping them in their studies to figure out how do people react and how complex emotions can be, because they feel that people can feel the same way in with the same scenario, but they have been learning that not everybody is reacting the same way. So they're learning like this more complex thing of emotions. For example, let's say that you love pie, but I might hate pie. And so they don't understand, why do you love pie and why I hate pie? If you love pie, I should love pie. And if I hate pie, why don't you hate pie? And so because of this, they are like opening a new whole can of worms that they're trying to comprehend since they don't have emotions. Again, it's a very neutral process and a very complex one because they're trying to understand, how do I properly react to this situation when 100 people are reacting in different ways over this situation. And so I do feel that they do this sometimes to see what is the most common emotion that we have with the same scenario, for example, like an operation room. Well, the most common one can usually be fear, intimidation, usually negative emotions. And so they're learning that different people may react different way, but the core may be the same, which may be a different type of negative emotion or a different type of positive emotions that are expressed differently by different people. And I hope I made sense.
I think you did. Let's get to Eric's question here. Eric is asking, earlier on you mentioned a species that was calling us kids here on Earth. Which species was that?
The Greys. The Greys were referring to us as kids. And it's understandable in a way because I have seen some of them that look like elder Greys. You know, they have wrinkles and they definitely look older than the cloned Greys and the other Greys that may be tall or short. The shorters don't always mean that they are robotic. The elders are more stern, and they were the ones that refer to us as kids of the universe because they do feel that there is a lot of evolving to do from our part. However, they do believe that since there's already different sparks, as they call us, already on planet Earth who are already awake, they do have what they perceive as hope that we may evolve and eventually grow and be like them. but they have told me that it might take a couple of 100 years. So when I ask them, is this going to happen anytime soon? Like, are we going to see a shift or an ascension where humanity is united as a whole? And they said, not in your lifetime or in the next 100 lifetimes.
I got a couple questions from Claudia and the SOR Space Travelers Club. Question one is, when they give you downloads, can you ever remember them at the time and write them down?
Sometimes I do, because whenever I am having a dream or an out-of-body experience, which is synonymous for astral experience, sometimes they give me so many downloads, like a lot of information, like so quickly, like one clip per second. Like it all comes in images, sometimes in words, but it's mostly images, and then it is up to me to interpret those images. And sometimes it's also fast, like moving so fast that when I wake up, I have to have my phone next to me so that I can type everything down as soon as possible. I always start with any conversation that took place, whether that took place in the beginning of the experience or at the end of it, because that is the first thing that I forget. As soon as I have written down the conversation, if any, then I proceed to write down the surroundings, how they look like, and the other details that are not necessarily meaningful at all from the experience. So I always focus on writing down whatever it is that they give me or they tell me before moving on to anything else from the experience.
Claudia's second question for you is, she has seen the ones in the robes in her dreams. She actually sat at a table and they gave her tons of information. Do you know, Zion, who the brown-robed beings are?
I do perceive reptilians, but again, I don't want to limit myself because there has to be a lot of different races out there that may wear robes. I know that I have seen some Greys wearing robes. I do feel that the reason why they have not shown themselves to you, it may be because they do not want to intimidate you, or perhaps because it is not relevant to your human experience to see them in this moment at least. But I do feel that once you're ready, that you are more open to their energy, because again, their energy can be very overwhelming. I do feel that the more you continue to evolve, because I can see you evolving spiritually, the more open you will be to these type of higher vibrational energies that may have been overwhelming to you in the past, but may not be in the near future. And so I do feel that once you are ready, they feel that you have evolved enough to receive their energy, I do know that they're going to show themselves to you.
And we'll get to a question from Stone in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker. Why do Greys use white light, feelings, awake paralysis against adults to get to children?
I don't know, because it's all an individual experience. But in my case, I do feel that the reason why they have done this to me, and I know that I'm getting a bit off track here, is because they wanted to trigger me. They wanted me to remember in a way that something happened, but not completely, because they did not want to harm me mentally and emotionally speaking. So they allow me to remember a little bit of the piece of the puzzle, because they knew that this would trigger me to start investigating more about them, more about the subject as a whole, the UFO, ET life, and spirituality and the new age. And this is what actually triggered my spiritual awakening due to my research. So it really depends on the people and their own individual experiences. So I cannot really speak as a whole, because everybody is different.
And we'll get to a question from Iris for you. Do you believe that when you are having your embryos taken, do you think they're taking them into a different dimension for final development?
Yes, I do feel that they have been taking them to another dimension to develop them fully. Usually this process lasts up to, it's a couple of weeks, no more than 3 months. So it's not... I do usually skip that time of the month once in a while, but that has not happened in years already. So you can really has slowed down a lot. For the past 6 years, back in 2009 and 2010, it was a very crazy year for me because I would be skipping that time of the month quite a lot, and sometimes my belly would be really swollen. And I am a very slender person. I am less than 100 pounds, so it wasn't really natural or normal that my belly would be slightly larger than normal, but this wouldn't really last too long. And so because of this, I started to get stretch marks out of the blue. But I thought that, hey, maybe I'm just getting stretch marks because I'm old or my body is weird or something. So I really didn't put much attention to that. But yes, I do believe that they do it physically in the beginning, but then they quickly take it to another dimension so that these beings can develop in the other dimension. Because again, most of these beings do not reside in this physical reality. They are from other dimensions. So I do feel that this is why they do the process very early on. They take the embryos very early to their dimension so that they can, quote unquote, translate the embryo to their dimension so that it can survive in their dimension and stay there.
We got time for one more question. We got about a minute and a half left before we're going to hop out for a break at the top of the hour. Eric is asking, do you feel that the Greys understand free will, or are they just semi-autonomous drones, in your opinion?
They do understand the concept of free will, which is why sometimes they cannot understand why we freak out whenever we see them when we are on board their spacecraft, because they told me, at least, you have already agreed to this. You have already agreed to do the hybridization program before you reincarnated on planet Earth. So why are you so afraid of us now that you have seen us, not just in this lifetime, but before you came here to Earth? And they do understand free will, but again, since they do not understand the concept of amnesia, they cannot understand the sense of fear and the sense of the unknown and the weirdness that we feel towards them, because we feel that they are invaders. And so this is something that they have been really looking into, because again, people react differently. Some people greet them happily and they are very proud of communicating with them. But again, since we all react differently, it's quite hard for them to comprehend why we feel such fear when we had already agreed to do something that is actually for the highest good of all.
And on that note, we are going to hop out for a break here at the top of the hour. 2 hours down, 1 hour to go with Zion Zeta tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Her website, zionzeta.com. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. More of your questions right after this.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Every month on Spaced Out Radio, we look into the deep and dark reports of cryptids roaming around the world with me, Rob Morphy, from Cryptopia.us. I would love it if you would join me and host Dave Scott as we delve into the most arcane stories and reports regarding creatures of the unknown. My job is to hunt down the details and bring the evidence forward to you. These aren't your regular Bigfoot stories I'm talking about either. You can find out more about crypto history at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Oh, there's only one way to rock. Loud and proud. In high definition. Radio 702 rocks. Las Vegas.
Find yourself constantly looking up in the sky, looking for answers? Have you had extraterrestrial contact? Are you an abductee? Looking for answers to your experiences? Hi there, I'm R. Keith Andrews, Spaced Out Radio's resident ET expert. Join me live the first Friday of every month where I take questions from the Spaced Out Radio chat room and help you understand those from the far-off world. It's 2 hours of knowledge every experiencer should listen to. Hope to see you there.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to connect with us on Spaced Out Radio? Head to spacedoutradio.com to check out the latest shows, guests, and sponsors. And don't forget to sign up for the Space Travelers Club. You'll find all you need at spacedoutradio.com. Welcome back to the final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Tomorrow night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time, we bring in ufologist Jeff Willis out of Arizona. We're going to be talking about the Phoenix Lights. That's tomorrow night on the mighty SOR. If you want to follow us on social media, you can do so at Spaced Out Radio on Twitter. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show, and our website is spacedoutradio.com. While there, you can read my latest blog, which went up today. It's on the alien UFO landing that I saw in April of 2014. You can read our other blogs. You can check out the SOR Space Wire by Eric Markham. That's our news section. Check out our music from Bumblefoot. And join the SOR Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month on average. You can join up, win prizes. You can also get a private section for posting on our website with your stories, your information, and so much more. The other guys just give you access to their archives, not us. We want to give back to you. So join the SOR Space Travelers Club today. Tonight we are talking with alien abductee, Gray Interactor, Zion Zeta. Her website, zionzeta.com. Zion, welcome back.
Thank you so much, Dave, and I hope that I've been able to bring a lot of valuable information, not just to you, but also to all the listeners that are tuning in, and I wanted to thank everybody for being here with us tonight.
And I thank you for taking the time to join with us. We got a bunch more questions coming in from our audience, so I'm going to start off with Joe's here. Joe is asking, have you ever had any physical contact with any of these beings and seen craft while you're awake?
No, I have never seen any of them physically that I am aware of course. But something that I am very sure about is that I have never seen a UFO in my life, which is quite funny because I've been having a lot of interaction with different groups, but, not seeing a UFO, like, that's kind of weird. But unfortunately, I have not really seen a UFO. The only ones that have seen spacecrafts have been my mother, my aunt, and my brother that one night in 2009, and my mother as a child. So when she was in class, when she was looking out the window, spacing out, pun intended maybe, she saw this disc-shaped silver spacecraft hovering over a field of grass. And she didn't say anything because no one would believe her. But after a couple of minutes, the whole school had to be evacuated because there was a fire in the same place where the UFO was hovering over. Or in that time, the flying saucer.
Let's get to another question here from the Space Travelers Club on Spreaker. This comes from Stone. She is asking, in a couple of different dimensions, one lot seems not very empathic, while the others seem very empathic. Do you find that the one type use sleep assessing or hacking to communicate with each side?
I have no idea about that. I do feel that from my interactions, yes, some of them are very neutral when it comes to emotions, so it gives the impression that they may not have any, while others have been very, very expressive, very loving, very gentle. I actually don't know, but I do feel that they are all working together to help each other in a way that is beneficial for both of them. But I still do not understand what is my role between both groups, that some of them who are empathic, and those who are neutral. But I do feel that it all comes down back to the hybridization program, which is like making the bridge between them, because my DNA is not just being taken and used with the DNA of a gray. There's also other DNAs from other races that are also involved in the hybridization program. For example, one of my hybrids is a humanoid because she looks human, but she is also a gray and is also a reptilian because she has the large black eyes, but she has the scales in her some areas of her body, like her arms, her chest, and on the sides of her legs, but her appearance is human. So she has her 5 fingers, she has that fair of it. So she definitely has that human aspect, but she has some references, if you will, of having some scales, which identifies with a reptilian father, and then the large eyes of the gray father.
Chris has a question for you in the Space Out Radio chat room on Spreaker. Have you ever had any experiences with space travel to different worlds?
I've never, well, that I am aware of, not exactly space travel, but I would say that yes, I have been taken to other places that I feel have not been on Earth, even though it looks very similar. But the difference is that the colors are much richer. Like the green is a very intense green that bothers your eyes. Like the grass is such a deep green that can be very bothersome. The sun, or what I have perceived to be the sun, which actually they call it a star. They always star. We don't call it the sun, but it's understandable since you're a human. It's white. And they don't really have flowers from what I have seen. And I can't really tell where I have been. I am guessing that it must have been somewhere close to the star of Sirius. There's this planet in particular that looks very tropical. The colors are very rich. The sky is a very deep blue, almost a navy blue. The sun is white, and the ocean is a very, very deep blue. But the green of the grass is such a bothersome green, almost neon green. If I had to compare it in a way that would make sense, it feels like staring at a high-definition movie where all the colors are heightened. And I don't do drugs. I don't even drink alcohol. But what I have perceived here is that the atmosphere has felt very different. So even though the surroundings may seem familiar or similar, the atmosphere feels different. I can feel a pressure in my chest area as if I can't breathe. And one time, one of the beings noticed he was a humanoid being, meaning that he looked very human. He had long brown hair. He looked very normal, or what we perceive to be normal, a normal human being. But I knew he was an ET. And he knew that I was having a hard time breathing. And so he gave me this device that I had to insert in my nostrils. So it feels like this piercing. You know that some people have a piercing on their nose? And so it felt funny to me because I told him, you know what? I feel like a bull right now with this thing in my nose. But thank you, because it allows me to breathe. And it's funny because as a kid, I would have these dreams of being able to breathe underwater through the help of this device that is U-shaped, that you would insert in your nostrils and be able to breathe underwater. And in this case, it had to be used in the atmosphere outside and above the surface. And so it's very interesting because whether this was just a dream or an out-of-body experience and an actual experience in another dimensional plane, everything has felt very real and very different, to the point where I tell myself, oh my gosh, this is real. I'm going to die because I cannot breathe properly. But there's always someone next to me that helps me out to either not have a panic attack because I am easily impressionable, or that I can be more comfortable, whether it's because I'm having breathing issues in there or any other difficulties that may arise in my body or my health.
Have they ever talked to you about any types of diseases here on Earth? Things that even haven't been diagnosed, much like Morgellons disease?
Well, recently I had a hypnosis session done about a month ago by someone who's actually a close friend of mine, whose name is Neil333. And so during the session, the funny part about this is that I've always been afraid of the Greys, despite having Zeta as my last name, and talking about the Greys a lot. And in this session, they would not let go of me because they just had so much information to share with me that, in fact, the session had to be extended to 3 hours because they just had that much to share. And one of the things that they shared with me was that I should stay away from the west area of the United States, especially the areas that are deserted. They were very specific. They said California, Nevada, New Mexico, Arizona, because they said to me in the session that there were a lot of underground bases in those areas where experiments with illnesses were taking place. They said that these shadow government or shadow military groups were working on practicing and releasing new illnesses to the public. Not on purpose. Sometimes they escape because they are airborne. I believe that is the correct term for it, where it can spread very easily if something goes wrong in one of those military bases. And the reason why they're doing this is because they want to keep those beings that are being held captive in those bases, to keep them weak, so that they cannot use their telepathic abilities to escape from these places or to call upon those who are outside of the bases in another dimension. And so sometimes these illnesses that are created underground to keep these ETs captive do tend to escape to the public. And so that's why they have suggested me to not go there, whether it's physically or astrally speaking, because these military bases do have technology to keep track of the astral bodies as well. as well as to repel them or hold them captive for interrogation purposes, because they do have trained psychic soldiers that can see and interact with the astral bodies. They are also able to remote view the person and follow them back to where they came from and see where they live and track their location. They said that this is why you were seeing black helicopters out of the blue, because by astral traveling to military, by having psychic soldiers remote view you and see where you live. And because of this, they have strongly discouraged me to even traveling to this area. They also spoke about earthquakes, especially in the area of California, and radiation. Now, I don't understand why they were talking about radiation in that area. I don't know if it's that something may happen future. They were not specific, but they say that people should stay out of there, especially the deserted places. They were very, very persistent that people should not go to the deserted places in those areas, because a lot of people go missing, and many of them are never heard about. Their bodies are not even recovered. So some cases are closed because the corpse apparently cannot be recovered. But it's not that it cannot be recovered, it's that the person never really appeared. And so there's a lot of unexplainable cases where people go missing and you really never hear about them. And sometimes it's because these groups from the shadow military have taken them hostage and are being kept underground for experimentation purposes. Because the Greys told me that in these underground places, they are doing experiments on humans and ETs that are being held captive there. And they are exchanging limbs of ETs and humans to one another to see what comes out of it. So they said, if we were to give you a comparison, you can research what happened back in a couple of decades ago with the Nazi doctors experimenting on the people that were being held in the concentration camps, I believe. And so they, that's what they have told me. I don't know how true this may be. I don't know if, I am somehow picking up on subconscious stuff, but this is what they have shared with me. And apparently they have wanted me to make this public, because when my friend Neil told me to ask them, why are they showing you this? They said to me, because we want you to talk about it publicly. Because we want the people of your planet to know this. And the enemy does not come from the skies, but it comes from within. And it's up to you to inform the people about what is going on, so that they can somehow inform others and to create this rippling effect of information and awareness. And that's pretty much what they have shared with me so far.
Have you ever dealt with any other beings rather than the Draconians and the Greys? Have you ever dealt with mantid beings or human-like beings?
I did interact with the mantid beings in the beginning of my spiritual awakening in 2010. My experiences with them were not positive at all, because they were using me for hybrid purposes as well. But on their case, they were more physical with me, meaning that they did use intercourse with me to procreate hybrids. The Greys were very sterile, very detached. They did not use intercourse because the group that was abducting me did not have their private parts developed. So they would only just take my eggs from me and just, fertilize them or something to create the hybrids. So the mantoids, as I call them, they were more physical with me, and they would rape me to create the hybrid children, who I have still not seen them to this day. So I don't know if they were doing this for hybrid purposes or not, but that was my impression of it at the time.
What are the Draconians like?
The Draconians are, people tend to call them albino reptilians, because they pretty much look like albino reptilians, meaning that they're white. But not necessarily. I do believe that the Draconians are very different race from the reptilians. If I had to compare the two of them, rather than the same part of the family, like brother and sister and so forth. I do feel that they are separate, but they are still linked because they are quite similar when it comes to their appearance. So in my case, the group that I have seen look like humanoid snakes, meaning that some of them have fangs, but their facial structure is very humanoid, meaning that they do have cheekbones, they do have a chin, they do have normal lips. Some of them don't really have lips. Their eyes can be slightly larger than a human's. So they look very humanoid. So the only thing is that some of them have scales, others do not. Some have wings, others do not. Some have tails, others don't. And some of them have either none or all. And so the only difference is that they just look slightly strange. My mother once saw the general when she was wide awake and was next to me trying to fall asleep. And she said that he actually looked like a strange human, only very, very white, like literally paper white, and that his eyes were red. But, since he has a flat nose, you can tell that he looks quite strange for being a quote-unquote human. And so some of them do not look like a full-on snake or a full-on alligator or iguana or what have you. Some of them look very humanoid. The only thing is that they may have a difference type in their physical appearance.
Do you find them to be more benevolent or a mixture of benevolent and malevolent?
It depends because, again, they are so vast, just like a human race. It's just so vast that it depends on what group you're contacting. But in my case, in the past, in 2010, I had interaction with service to self reptilians and Dracos. So they were not exactly benevolent. But this particular group that the general is a part of, they are actually benevolent. But they are not actually involved in the evolution of planet Earth because they do not belong in this dimension. And second, they do believe that we have the power within ourselves to move forward, which is why they believe that we do not need intervention from higher forces, because they know that we can do the job, because they say that that is why we're here for. And he says we do not belong to your planet because we are from a different dimension. And second, it is your job as a whole race to work each other up instead of tearing each other down with senseless wars and deception and greed and obsession for power. And so in their case, they're because their energy is very strong in the sense that they seem to be like warriors. Like they have this warrior aspect to them because they are not afraid of defending their own. Like they do have weapons on their spacecrafts, but they do not use it unless they are the ones under threat or they have to protect another race that is under a threat. Because something that they have told me is, do not be fooled. Just because we are from a higher dimension does not mean that we don't have our own problems over here. And that was something that really caught me off guard because I thought that they were all at peace. And they said to me that they are, but that there's always this small chance of, you know, another race wanting to start something. Very similar to planet Earth, where sometimes wars tend to happen between countries and so forth. He says that, the general says that it can be similar with them, but that they are actually working for the highest good. They do understand the sense of duality, good and evil, or what we perceive to be good and evil, but they have transcended that. They say that they do not need to take sides because everything is part of the whole.
Who is the general?
The general is a draconian being that I drew back in 2011 out of inspiration because I had this friend who was having contact with different reptilians, and a group of them were not very benevolent. And so for some reason I felt inspired to draw him, and I drew this reptilian being with scales, because that was my first impression, a being with scales, a reptilian with a black uniform with a star on his hat. Unfortunately, I drew a 6-pointed star instead of 5. But I figured, well, maybe that is the correct star, as I know that sometimes I get carried away and, things happen for a reason. That was in December. And in April of 2012, 6 months later, approximately, I believe, I had this out-of-body experience where I was taken on board a spacecraft. And there was this elderly man resting over a bunch of pillows, and there were 3 hooded reptilian beings. They were all males, and they were all sitting on their knees next to this man at his left side. And the general was sitting close to the feet of this man. And so when I got close to them, they were asking me to heal this man. And so they all insisted me that... Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Oh, okay. It's just that for some reason Skype is acting up. So in a sense, they continue to motivate me, like, hey, give it a shot. You never lose anything by trying. So I decided to approach this man, and I sat on my knees next to him at his right side. So I was facing them too. And I placed my hands a couple of inches above his shins and his knees. And I closed my eyes and I started to do deep breathing. It was all very intuitive. And so I heard the 4 ETs humming the mantra. And I was like, well, this is interesting because this is the first time that I see beings and hear them chanting a mantra that is done on Earth. And so in my mind's eye, I started to see the 7 colors of the chakras merging together, and my hands were turning warm. So as soon as I felt that I had finished, I opened my eyes and I saw my hands that were glowing white. But as soon as I opened my eyes, the glow disappeared. So the beings clapped, they congratulated me, and they said that they were very happy that I could do this and that I was aware that I could heal another person. So I quickly asked them, who are you guys? Because I knew that I was going to wake up at any given point, so I wanted to remember a name that they had as a whole or individual names. But the general said to me, we're only just a group of friends. So I stood up because my legs were falling asleep by being in that position, and so did he. And that's when I noticed that he is the one that I drew back in 2011, 6 months before seeing him. So I was very shocked about this, and so that's when I told him, you know what, I don't believe that. And that's when he seemed to become slightly tense with me, and that's when he told me, I am your starfather. And for those of you who may not be aware of this, starseed, which is the most common term, is someone that does not originate from planet Earth, whose soul is not from Earth. A starseed is someone whose soul is from ET origin and decides to reincarnate on Earth for a specific mission or purpose, which is usually for the highest good of humanity and the planet. And this is what he meant by saying starfather, meaning that my soul belongs to this group of Draconians, that I may be a Draconian soul myself, and that he is my father, my extraterrestrial father. So obviously this was a huge shock to me. I was in disbelief, especially because of his intimidating appearance. So he knew that my astral body was struggling to return, and it was because they were holding me there with their technology long enough so that he could have a closer interaction with me. But as soon as he noticed my struggle, he became very alarmed. I saw it in his eyes, and he grabbed me from the arm, and we ran away to another part of the spacecraft. And he pushed me inside a capsule to teleport me back into my physical body. Why? Because I would not be able to have made it on my own because my physical body was already awake. My eyes were already awake, but my consciousness was not in it, so to speak. And I know that this may not make sense. So he decided that teleportation was the fastest way than having me return on my own. And the next thing I know, my surroundings faded, and I became aware of the ceiling of my bedroom. I did not open my eyes because my physical body was already. And so because of this, because of the impact that my physical body received, I was, experiencing sleep paralysis for approximately 20 minutes or 25 minutes.
And on that note, I'm going to get you to hold on, and we're going to hop out for our final break of the night. Zion Zeta is our guest tonight. What a fantastic guest that she has been tonight. Just so eloquent. You wouldn't believe that she's just 23 years old and has had all of this happen in the last 6-7 years of her life. ZionZeta.com is her website. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We're out for our final break. We'll be right back.
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from your 4-Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio?
Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us.
From the radio, commercials, to banners, to social media.
Have a product you'd like our host to endorse? We can do that too.
Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry.
Right here, this is where we divulge the fruit of our research. Here on the Webster Phenomena every Saturday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern on Spaced Out Radio.
Attention Spaced Out Radio listeners. For only $5 a month, you can join Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers. Your membership at spacedoutradio.com will give you access to private fan area on the website, get you a monthly newsletter, draws for monthly swag, and a whole lot more. Sign up today to become a part of the Spaced Out Radio experience.
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Greetings and salutations, space travelers, from the Chronicles of the Unknown team.
What is Chronicles of the Unknown? I keep hearing about this thing.
It's a new paranormal reality TV show based right here in beautiful British Columbia, Canada. Follow our team as we uncover claims of activity on the Caribou Gold Rush Trail. You can also follow us here every third Monday, where 2 members of our team will be available to answer your questions. We'll give you some equipment updates and some of our experiences on the road, right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
Missed most of tonight's show? Don't worry, you didn't miss a thing. You can head to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and download our archives for free. And don't forget to get your Space Travelers membership today. Now, back to tonight's show. We've rounded third. We are heading for home on Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you with us tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Tomorrow night on the show, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time, we will be talking with Arizona ufologist Jeff Willis. We're going to go back in time to March 13th, 1997, when the Phoenix Lights appeared. It's the first time we're going to talk solely on that subject tomorrow night on the show. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show, and our website is spacedoutradio.com. While you're there, what you can do is sign up for the SOR Space Travelers Club. Works out to about $5 a month. That's less than a Starbucks coffee. You get your name put in an automatic prize draw, which we do the final Friday of every month during the SOR Roundtable. You get a special section to post on the website, including your photos, your evidence, and so much more. Unlike the other guys who just give you access to their archives, we give you a heck of a lot more in return. You can also read up on my new blog. It is about the alien landing I saw, or the UFO landing I saw back in April of 2014. I've written about that. Tell me what you think at the bottom of that page. You can also listen to our music maestro, Bumblefoot, formerly of Guns N' Roses, and read up on the news with SOR Spacewire by Eric Markham. Tonight we are talking with Zion Zeta. Her website, zionzeta.com, if you want to check her out. And Zion, welcome back.
Thank you so much, Dave, and I am very happy to be here with you tonight, and I wanted to thank you in front of everybody that is listening right now for giving me this big opportunity to be here tonight because, as you know, a lot of people tend to judge me, but really pay attention to me, and I am glad that you have given me a space to talk about a lot of things that I am sure a lot of people will find beneficial.
Well, I think you've done absolutely fantastic tonight and won over some fans who are checking out your website as well. I do have a couple of questions here from our audience, this one coming from Stone. Are you able to see color frequencies around people and parasites feeding? And if so, have you used your light energy to help? Also,
no, I have not seen that type of frequency or energy, but I do feel when the person is coming from a negative space because their energy can feel very dense. So I don't really see, but I can perceive. And when I do perceive that something is not normal, if you will, with them, I do tend to give them advice on what things they can do because sometimes you can only do so much from your part. The other person also has to do their work. So I do my work if the person is willing to accept it because I do respect their free will. Sometimes people have rejected my help, whether you believe it or not. Some of them have rejected my help. So this is something that I make sure that I ask them first before interfering, if you will, with their energy field because sometimes their guides may not be too happy either. So it's all about communication and letting them know, hey, I can perceive this from you. I don't know if you're aware of it, but I would like to help. But I also need you to help me so that you can help yourself along the way too. So that is usually what I do.
Have you ever dealt with any light beings?
Light beings, I would not really. If you're referring to the beings that are really not physical, that look like just like balls of light or have a human shape of light, it was just only once, and that was in 2010. And it was very brief because my chest felt tight because I was floating in this dark space. I don't know if it was an actual space surrounded by stars, but I was facing a sun, I would say a star. It was too bright, and there were all these energy beings that were light, but they had the shape of human bodies. And I could hear one of them saying, "She is not ready yet for this." And that's when they gently returned me back to my bed. I saw myself returning and entering my physical body, but that was it.
Do you believe that the extraterrestrials made you intuitive? Shar would like to know.
Oh, yes, they definitely are very intuitive. Since they are telepathic, I do feel that their intuition is very, at least the Draconians that I know, they are not just telepathic, but they can also communicate through emotions, so they are very intuitive, and they know when something is wrong. You don't have to say anything or make a face because they already know. And they sometimes might approach like, hey, what's happening with you on Earth? We're seeing this happening to you, and we feel that you're not in the best place right now, so we're wondering if we can do something about it to help you feel better. They're very definitely very intuitive. The Greys are more neutral in the sense that, since they're not emotionally expressive, they tend to remain neutral, but they know when someone feels a certain way. They can pick up on it just like that very quickly. You don't even have to say anything for them to notice, because with them, whenever you're with an ET, you cannot hide anything, and neither can they. And this is something that I have noticed. I thought that this was just a one-way thing where they could, know everything about me. But I have found myself also picking up on their energy. And they cannot keep things a secret from them because we are that connected, not just telepathically, but emotionally as well.
On your website, zionzeta.com, you have numerous drawings of reptilian, humanoid, and snake-like beings, as well as gray-like beings on there. Are all of these pictures that you have drawn beings that you have come in contact with, or are they beings that have represented themselves in dream state?
The majority of these drawings that I have on my website are because I have seen them in the towels of the bathroom, different towels, the rugs, the walls, the ceilings, and some of them, like the reptilian lady, for example, which is highlighted on the website, as well as a colored version of her, which is with Crayola. But some of them, I don't even remember which ones they were, but some of them, not too many, have actually shown themselves to me for me to draw them. And the best case that I can tell you is a reptilian lady. And this one was a very brief encounter with her because I just appeared inside a room from a spacecraft. It was a round room. It was dim lit. There was a small light above in the ceiling that illuminated it kind of like a spotlight in the center of the room. And I had a feeling that I had to step under the light. There were no doors or windows, so I have no idea how I got there. And when I stepped underneath the light, I saw this tall figure approach me, and she stepped under the light as well. And that's when I saw the reptilian lady, which is a tall, orange-skinned reptilian lady with scales, with large eyes that have the irises. So her irises were a deep aquamarine color, very, very intense and eye-catching, no pun intended. And she had 5 horns and 2 long antennas. As she did not have a tail, she was not wearing clothes. Her body was very curvy, and she had semi-large breasts without nipples. Her crotch, nothing could be seen. So when I saw her, she sent me a telepathic message, and she told me, you have 10 seconds to memorize my image because I want you to draw me. And I looked at her, raising my eyebrow, and I was like, what? Because I was so surprised with her request. I was already having a hard time counting how many horns she had on her head, and I had a hard time memorizing her facial structure and the other details that she had. And she knew that I could do it. So she remained silent, and she posed for me. She posed by smiling at me while sticking out her tongue at me. So her tongue was very long, pointy, and pink. And that's when I decided to, the 10 seconds started and I just gazed into her eyes. I started with the most easiest details to memorize, like the eyes, I repeat to myself, aquamarine eyes, the tongue, she's sticking out her tongue, she has scales. And then I moved on to how many horns she had and her antennas. And as soon as I woke up, I remembered the hardest details, which were the last ones. And the reason why I did this was because I tend to forget everything else except the last thing from an experience. So that's why I started with the easiest details first, and I moved on to the difficult details later. And so as soon as I woke up, I drew her away. I picked up my notebook and I started to draw her. And I got so involved in the drawing that I forgot about writing down the experience until I started to write my book, that I started to look for the log and I could not find it because I never wrote it. And so that I remembered the date of the experience because I drew her on the same day that I had it, which was a day before Christmas of 2011.
You have a pink lady that you've drawn on one of your drawings.
Yes, I do remember her. I don't remember the experience, though. I do feel that she also asked me to draw her. But in this case, it was a bit more intense considering that she was in this military base, so to speak. The place was empty or nothing. She was only there, but she did not seem like a very good person. I don't know if she was a service to self. Simply had an attitude, because not just because a being treats you badly does not mean that they are service to self. Some of them just have egos and have emotions, and they may not be very friendly with you, not because they're evil, but simply because that's who they are. And so in her case, I did feel slightly intimidated by her due to her attitude, but then she approached me and she just started to poke at me in the chest with her finger, and she told me, "I want you to draw me right now." And she did not give me an explanation, but she told me, "I don't know what you're gonna do, but you're going to memorize my image in some way. Stare at me as long as you want, but draw me." And so I was like, okay, I agree, whatever you want me to do. And so I started with the most complex details and, leaving the complex details for later and memorizing the easiest ones, like her skin color, the color of her eyes, the shape of her lips, and then moving on to the more difficult details like the shape of her head, how many fingers she had. I never drew her body completely, but I knew that she had 5 fingers. So her head was a strange shape because it was elongated. It was very long, so it feels like an extension. So for those of you who may be aware of ancient Egypt, Akhenaten, I believe, is his name. Some of you may know that he had a long skull, or I don't know if it's him or somebody else from ancient Egypt. But that was how her head looked like. Like her skull was very long, like that alien from the Alien movie. It was very, very similar, but it was much, much downwards. So it wasn't really horizontal. It was like downwards, like having a ponytail, so to speak. So her head was quite strange because she didn't have hair. That was just the shape of her head, which may come across as hair, but it was just her head.
When you have these interactions, how often are they happening?
Back then, like between 2010 and 2013 or 14, they were quite often. They were, I would say, once or twice a week. But as soon as I started to continue to move on spiritually and to start to interact more with those of a higher vibrational energy, like the draconians that I am in contact with and the greys, you know, some people may think that they are service to self and that they are deceptive and evil, but that is simply not the case. It's just that their appearance scares a lot of people, and people tend to think that they're evil simply because they look different and look intimidating. So because of this, my connection with them has been evolving with the years, ever since I became aware of them in 2012 of the draconians. Things have been shifting for me, so my interactions have not been many because they are now more valuable in the sense that they are more with those that have come from a higher vibrational place or dimension, which are them. So now they don't really show themselves to me too often, first, because it triggers a military abduction, and second, it can trigger the black helicopters that tend to show up once in a while to see what is going on and as a way to intimidate me, and third, because they don't really have a lot to say to me because apparently, according to them, I am doing what I am supposed to be doing in this lifetime right now in this very moment.
Corrine brings up a very good point in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker. She says, not to be disrespectful, but how can we believe these things that you are saying simply from astral travel or dreams, so to speak, if you haven't had interaction in a conscious level?
Because we have been so used to listening to interactions that other people have had physically that we are not open to other ways of contact. Remember that these beings, they have advanced technology, and because of this, they may not necessarily be physical. And I understand where you're coming from because I have also wondered that myself. So again, I am only sharing what I have gone through and what I have experienced. Of course, I'm not expecting anybody to believe anything that I have said here tonight, but my only intention is to bring comfort or understanding to those who may have had similar things happen to them. But I do get your point. It's very understandable because I used to think that way myself back in the day, where I would think to myself, hey, how do I know that this is valid when this is not happening physically? You know, but just because something that is happening to you that is not physical does not mean that it's not happening to you. It's just like, for example, having contact with spirits or capturing a ghost in a picture. You know that a ghost is not a physical entity, but is actually an entity from another plane. So just because it's not from this physical reality does not mean that it's not real. So again, it all depends on your perspective on things. I do believe that you should only take what you resonate out of this interview and only use what you find helpful to you.
Joe has a question in the SOR Space Travelers. If they are contacting you telepathically, where are they physically? Are they on Earth, in orbit, another planet, or maybe another dimension?
They are from another dimension because they have told me that they are from the 9th dimension. So they are not able to manifest physically on this plane. They may be able to period of time because their energy does not belong in this plane and it can overwhelm them, just like we can be overwhelmed if we are taken to the 9th dimension, for example, due to the difference in the vibration and the energy of both dimensions. So in a way, they are not physical beings, but they may be able to manifest physically, but again, for a very short period of time.
You mentioned earlier that you have had a run-in with the Men in Black. Could you describe that?
Well, that was one morning that I was coming out of an appointment with my mother and my aunt. We were just waiting for the cars to pass by to cross the road, but we had to wait. And there was this red Porsche right in front of us waiting for someone. And behind this Porsche, there was a black car. It looked like a Crown Victoria car. And there were two men. Both of them actually were outside. One of them was leaning on the door of the front passenger seat, looking at me, while the other one was leaning against the door of the driver's seat, the door of the car. And he was facing away, talking over a silver cell phone. And so when I became aware of them, I was very surprised because the skin of the man that was looking at me was actually a very pale gray. And I knew that something was off, something was going on, something was strange and not normal here. And especially because he was glaring at me. And I was like, why would a stranger glare at me? And why doesn't he stop staring at me? But, I kind of brushed it off until, again, his skin tone just called my attention so badly that it was something very weird that just gave me this bad impression about it all. So then when it was our time to cross the road as we were heading to the parking lot, I looked back at them and they were both staring at me, and that's when I had a clear view of both of them, and they both looked exactly the same. The same facial structure, no hair, their eyebrows were defined, their hairs were black, brushed back with gel, and they were both wearing black sunglasses, the same black suits with white shirts and black ties. When I was closer to them before crossing the road, I noticed that the man in black that was leaning on the door of the front passenger seat, his shoes were shining. They were clean, they were shiny black and brand new pretty much. It's like they just stepped out of the car with brand new clothes and brand new shoes, And so when we were crossing the road, I looked back and they were both looking at me. And they were following us with their heads in perfect synchronicity. And in that moment, I felt a tingling sensation in my forehead. And I usually have that sensation when someone wants to communicate with me telepathically. So in that moment, I received a message, "Shut up or there will be consequences." And I responded, "I am not afraid of you." And so my mother pulled me, "What are you looking at?" And I told her, "Nothing." And we moved on and we got on the car and we left the place. The funny part about this is that at the time, we were receiving strange calls. At least I was at 3 a.m. every single night. No one will leave a voice message. The phone numbers were blocked. Whenever I called my mom or my aunt, a man would respond to me, or vice versa. They would call me and a man would respond. So there was a lot of phone interference and things that were not normal. And people speaking while we were having a conversation, between my family and I. And as soon as I saw them, the call.
Interesting. Are you still there?
Yes.
Okay. We only have about 2 minutes left with you tonight. That 3 hours has flown right by.
Yes.
By. I got time for one more question. This is from Stone. Were the men in black you talked about in this 3D or in a dream state?
No, this was a physical encounter when I was walking out of a doctor's appointment with my family in the morning.
That's enough to kind of put the hairs on the back of your neck standing straight up.
Yes.
I'm glad I haven't had that yet.
Well, you never know when this could happen to you. I thought the same thing. I never thought that this would ever happen to me, and, it did happen.
Well, you know what? Let's hope it doesn't happen again. We got about a minute left with you, Zion. I would love it if people could find out a little bit more about you and your website.
Well, if all of you have enjoyed everything that I have shared so far in this 3-hour interview, and so much more on my book, Connecting the Stars, which you can find on your local Amazon or directly from my website, zionzeta.com. And, if you want to know more about me, what I do, what I offer, you can also visit my website, zionzeta.com. Look me up on YouTube, where I offer monthly tarot scope readings for the zodiac signs, as well as on Facebook. And if you want to share something with me, do not hesitate to reach out to me. And I wanted to thank you all so much for tuning in, and to Dave. And all of you always remember that I am Zion Zeta, always at your service.
Zion, I'm going to get you to hold on for a couple of minutes. I got to fire up Bumblefoot here to take us home tonight. Thank you so much for being on Spaced Out Radio. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Dave. It's an honor to be here, and thank you so much for giving me this space to share with you and the rest of your listeners.
Take care.
You too, Dave.
You hold on. We're going to finish up this show here. Mr. Bumblefoot is playing, taking us home tonight on the mighty SOR, which means tomorrow night on the show, we will have more UFO talk. March 13th, 1997, the Phoenix Lights appeared. Jeff Willis, a ufologist out of Arizona, will join us tomorrow night on Spaced Out Radio as we talk about the infamous Phoenix Lights. If you want to follow us on social media, you can do so at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, we can be followed at Dave Scott SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show, and our website is spacedoutradio.com. While there, you can read my latest blog. It's all about the ET UFO landing that I had back in April of 2014. You can read our other talented writers. Check out the SOR Spacewire with Eric Markham, our news director. Our music man is Bumblefoot. Click on his tab to watch his couple of videos we have on there. You can see who we're affiliated with. And don't forget, if you haven't already, sign up for the SOR Space Travelers. It averages about $5 a month. You get your name put in private monthly draws, like Joe Allgaier won this past Friday on the SOR Roundtable. He won a prize package. We're giving the next one away on August 26th. You have to be a member in order to qualify. You can also post on our private section on the website and much more, because we want to do a heck of a lot more than just have you do our archives. Mr. Bumblefoot's taking us home. We will talk to you tomorrow night. Thank you so much for being with us. We will talk to you in exactly 21 hours from now. You have a good one. Head to bed. It's late. Bumblefoot, take us home. Good night.